Welcome to our Next Big Thing podcast series. So, joining me today from Singapore is Professor Dorien Herremans, who is an associate professor at the Singapore University of Technology and Design. So, Professor, I just want to thank you. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
So, you're currently teaching AI, artificial intelligence, and how it's used for automatic music generation, so such as hit prediction and automatic transcription, and it can even predict the stock market, which is like crazy. It's insane. So I'm curious to know, what was it about this field in particular that made you want to pursue it further? And you can always add, you can add as to what it is that you do as well.
Yeah, sure. So my background is in economics. So I have a master's in business engineering. And I suppose when I was 23, 24, about to graduate, I didn't quite feel up to joining a big company as a consultant or something. So instead, when choosing a list of master thesis topics, I saw in the list music and meta heuristics. And I've always been a musician myself, so I thought, well, this sounds more interesting than all the other economic topics in the list. So I just felt like doing something creative and fresh. And the thesis turned out super well. And it turns out that you can use all of these techniques that we use for timetabling and scheduling boats, etc. You can use that to generate music, and you could apply them in audio problems. For instance, things like Spotify are doing, like how do you recommend the next song that you want to listen to? Like to predict those sorts of things, we use data science technologies and AI technologies that are also often applied in the economics field. So that's sort of how I made a little bit of that shift from economics towards music. And because music is in essence a time series, right? You have one note after the other. I've recently gone a little bit back to my economic background and started working a little bit in the financial markets as well, which is in essence also time series, right?
Right, right. And what do you think when it comes to artificial intelligence, what do you think are some of the misconceptions when it comes to artificial intelligence and music in the music industry? What do you think what do you think are some of the misconceptions about that?
Well, I often get asked, like, will AI replace musicians? Because we've been working now for a long time on can we automatically generate music? And so on the one hand, we have all these blog posts for people creating a little deep neural network, and they put a little fragment, and it sounds pretty okay. But there's a few issues with that kind of work. So first of all, there's short snippets. So to actually generate a full song, you need something to engage the listeners to listen to it, like maybe a theme, something that causes an earworm. So it's still a little bit of a challenge to really get that structured music out there. And then a second aspect is emotion. So emotion and music are very much connected. So ever since the 50s, psychologists and cognitive scientists have been studying the effect that music has on your emotions. Right? You're going through a bad breakup, you listen to music to make you feel better or to, comfort you. And if an AI is just generating a music, I don't know, the highest probability music, maybe it doesn't emotionally resonate with you.
Right.
So we've been trying to make systems that allow you to control the emotion in the generated music.
For those who are not too familiar with with the integration of AI and music, how do you think we can become more interested in a topic like this? Because it can be intimidating, artificial intelligence being, having it perhaps shape the way the music industry is going. So how do you think we can become more interested in this?
There's a great community called ISMER, which is the International Society for Music Information Retrieval, and they have some mentorship programs. They organize an annual conference as well, Um, it was online this year, so you might be able to find the videos online if people are interested to see what sort of stuff these researchers are getting into. There's a particular subgroup, which is the WIMIR, the Women in Music Information Retrieval Research. And they have a mentorship program as well. I usually serve as a mentor there. So where we have Skype meetings with people interested in becoming a researcher or implementing some of this technology, and we'll do 3 Skype meetings in a term. And then we'll try to get them on their way in this field.
And you've been teaching for a while too. What do you think? What do you think is the interest of the students right now? Those students that you teach. What do you think their main interests in AI or music is right now?
A good question. I suppose it depends a bit on the student. So the course I teach, for instance, in data science is a general course, but there's an integrated project, and I suggest a few topics in music, which I encourage them to work on, and they were very popular this year. So I'm sure there's a growing interest in this field. Back when I was starting this research in like 2004 or something, I really had to explain, like, why would anybody want to build music technology? But now it's very easy. You have Shazam, you have Spotify, you have all these things. And maybe soon we'll have a music generation app. I mean, there was a big music generation company in London. They got bought by TikTok. So maybe TikTok will generate music for our videos soon. So things are happening really in this space.
And you talked about, when you first got started in the industry and how you had to explain to people why this is needed right now. Like, what, if you can further elaborate on that, and what were some of the challenges when you first entered the field?
Yeah, so when I was doing my thesis, I suppose that's where it started. In an economics faculty, they're asking me, well, what's the economic importance of this? And I think the main way I explained this was, back then at least, the amount of money being put into the music industry and the amount of money it costs just to break one new artist in the market is really high. Excuse me. So I think, I don't know the number by heart, but we're talking about multiple millions here just to get one new artist known to the public, really. So if we have some AI that could help us, maybe you would invest in this artist or in that artist, that would help. So that's also why we worked on things like hit prediction, whereby listening to just the music, we're trying to identify this song might have some potential or not.
And looking at the future, I feel like we're in the future right now, though, but like looking in the near future, do you see the further, do you see us using more artificial intelligence, specifically maybe in the music industry or in other industries as well? Like, do you see this further integration, or this further that we can use it?
Yeah, you mean for my technologies or for AI in general?
I guess for your technology, like for the music industry as well.
Yeah. So I think the industry is reshaping a bit with this whole digital revolution right now. A record company isn't just burning records. They also need to have a digital presence. So they need to have a platform to let Spotify connect to them. It needs to be secure. They're becoming a software company, really. And in a similar way, things are going to be handled differently. Let's say for producers as well, maybe, okay, we can generate music, but maybe our music generation, I'm so sorry, our music generation algorithm is actually designed to support composers. So if I'm composing, I don't know, in Logic Pro or in Ableton, maybe I can have a plugin that says, okay, generate me an idea of a theme, and then I can work with that. So it's sort of providing these meta tools that can make the work of our composers easier, or the work of our DJs easier to recommend appropriate music, or like we're really wanting to support the current industry.
And you think do you think that's an easy process to do that, or do you think it's still like, it's still a work in progress?
But yeah, it's definitely still a work in progress. And yeah, it's never easy because uh, to really make a product commercially available also, it needs to go beyond academia. Right? So we can make nice command line scripts, um, but then it needs to be brought further. But I think since a lot of people are doing this now, and the big music companies are actually engaging researchers more and more. So if you attend the conference I spoke of earlier, you'll see that sponsors are Spotify, Last FM, all these big names. So they are actually taking up the research and bringing it to the next stage.
Hmm.
And that's
I
quite
didn't
exciting.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. Because like you said, I think like that's sort of where we're headed now. It's like, we need that support of AI to perhaps use it to our advantage in the future as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's something very powerful. And industries, I think, or companies, they need to jump on it before they miss the boat. You don't want to be stuck in the old way of doing things when you'll get overtaken by new companies with newer technologies.
mm. And so
But
do
I
you
think that
think,
works for all industries in general. Sorry.
right, no, that's okay. So do you think that there's more of an urgency, like there needs to be more of an urgency to integrate AI in the music industry? Like, do you find that's the case?
I think they're doing pretty well at this moment. Yeah. And we might not be aware what companies are doing behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
because if a record company is using some sort of AI algorithm to help them pinpoint their artist, I mean, they get maybe 500 demo submissions a week or something, so they might not have the manpower to listen to all of them. Maybe
Right.
they'll use some sort of screening algorithm to evaluate like roughly the quality. I'm not sure they would admit it necessarily to the public if they were doing that, because they're an expert company.
Hmm.
But yeah, for sure, everyone is really doing this. This industry is really moving forward.
And you earlier you talked about the fact that, with the music prediction, how, when we listen to a song, for example, Spotify will like predict the next song, like, hopefully that a song that we'll like. Can you explain like how does that work? Like how does it work through AI?
Yeah, it uses all sorts of techniques like collaborative filtering and neural networks as well. So it'll just take into account your profile information, like what kind of person are you. It'll look at your listening history, like you seem to like these kinds of songs or listen to these songs a lot. Then maybe it'll look at some of your friends and followers, what do these people like, and out of all that information, it will recommend you the new song.
Hmm. And do you
We've
think, oh no, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so we found, for instance, that we could predict the hit based on the audio. But if we look at the social network, we can predict hit songs even better. So what we did was we examined data from Last FM and we followed 1,000 users or something for a period of several months, and we tracked everything they listened to. And we noticed that we could identify several users, and just knowing that these users listened to a new song would make us predict like 98% certainty that next week it'll be in the top 10 of the charts. So these are sort of trendsetters or early adopters or people with a big following group that influences what other people are listening to. So these social dynamics are really important for companies to study.
Hmm. So what you're saying is, it depends on the person, obviously, who's listening to it, but like it also depends on the people around that person who's, interested in the same thing, basically, and that could
Yeah.
predict, whether it reaches the top charts or whether it doesn't.
Yeah. The people, our interactions on the internet are very important for this, and it can give us a lot of insights into uh, predicting your future behavior.
Hmm. And is there any, like, I have to ask this question about like the ethical part of it, because there is this thing where, where you're taking potentially users' information and trying to predict like what could happen. Is that a concern as well?
Well, we're always very careful about that. Whenever we do a study, we'll get ethical approval and make sure we don't use any private data. But we're researchers, right? So the
Right.
data we use from Last.fm is just whatever is on the people's public profiles, so it's fully public. What companies do, of course, they should follow whatever privacy agreement we all agreed to when we signed up. So that, yeah, that is a big question. I suppose that's why some people still stay away from social networks. On the other hand, I suppose if I see advertisement or something, I'd rather it be tailored to my profile than not, as long as they don't misuse the information.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually it's a big issue separate from music, I think.
And my last question for you is, what are you currently, is there anything that you're working on right now that you'd want people to know, that you're, any upcoming projects or anything like that?
So we have a big music generation project going, which is basically using the latest technology and deep learning, like the transformers, to generate full lead sheet music. So lead sheet is like popular songs which have melody, lyrics, chords, bass, and drums.
Yeah.
So we're doing that, and we're trying to make the emotion of the music steerable. So you could start off sad and end up happy, for instance. We also have some projects going on audio transcription, which is a very interesting and important problem. And it's basically the fact that if you have an MP3, but you want to know the score, like you're a guitarist and you really want to know the chords of this song, or you play saxophone and you want to know what that solo, what those notes are. So that's what we're trying to solve. But if there's many instruments in the particular song, sorry, it gets really difficult to do this.
And like, so there's no way to like break down an instrument by instrument, depending on the song. Like if there's like a whole ton of instruments, like there's no way to single them out.
Yeah, that's also a problem we've been working on. You could first split the audio and the instruments. Yeah, you can definitely do that, but it's also hard.
Well, Professor, I just want to thank you for your time today. I certainly learned a lot from your research, and I hope our listeners are interested in this as well. So, Professor, just thank you again for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was really my pleasure.
Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.